Hey, what's up? Zach D Productions here, and I'm here for a movie ranking video for you guys. So for this ranking, I'll be ranking all of the Mission Impossible movies, all 7 movies. There have been 7 movies so far in the franchise. There's going to be 8 in 2024 with Dead Reckoning Part 2. Hopefully it comes out in 2024 and it doesn't get delayed or anything. And I say this because of basically the state that we live in, basically the world of movies and basically any form of entertainment where we're constantly seeing delays and stuff like that. So hopefully Dead Reckoning Part 2 doesn't get delayed till, say, 2025. Hopefully it does come out next year in 2024. And I'm definitely looking forward to that film, especially considering how great Dead Reckoning Part 1 was, which I did see in the theater, which I thought was a great movie and definitely one of my favorite films of this year. So, of course, Tom Cruise, one of the all-time greats in movies. I mean, some people say that he's one of the last great movie stars. And, again, he is one of the all-time greats, and he definitely puts on his best in whatever it is that he does. I liked the majority of the movies that I have seen with Tom Cruise, even outside of Mission Impossible. Of course, I do like the Top Gun films. War of the Worlds, there's other films as well, like Valkyrie and Days of Thunder, and Jack Reacher, of course. I do like the Jack Reacher films a lot, especially the first one. The first one is probably one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies as well. So yeah, I would consider myself a fan of Tom Cruise, and of course, he's great in these movies and these Mission Impossible films. So we'll be going from worst to best based on my opinion, of course, so let's go ahead and get started. So what I have last, and I'm sure a lot of people would have last, it's got to be Mission Impossible 2, which, as you can see, I do have on Blu-ray, and I'll be showing all the Mission Impossible films on Blu-ray, except for the newest one, Dead Reckoning Part 1, which, of course, when that comes out on Blu-ray, I'm definitely going to pick that up, but even though Mission Impossible 2 is the weakest in the franchise, I'd still say it's decent. It's still a decent movie, I would say. I think this movie has a few problems, though. It is a little slow at the beginning, like the action doesn't really pick up till later on. And when the action does happen, sometimes it could be a little over the top. And that's one of this movie's biggest problems, in my opinion, is the action is kind of over the top. Like, there's things about this movie that are, like, not Mission Impossible, you could say. Like, I think some of these scenes would work better if it was, say, a James Bond movie or something, but some of these scenes don't really work for Mission Impossible, in my opinion. But still, I think it's a decent movie. I mean, there are things to like about it. Again, even though I do think some of the action is over the top, there are things to like about this movie, I'd say. I mean, some of the action is okay. I think the motorcycle scene with Tom Cruise when he's riding on the motorcycle, I really like that sequence of the movie. And I thought that the final battle was not so bad when he's fighting the main bad guy. I think that was pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, again, there's things to like about this movie, but again, it's just a little too much, I think. It's a little over the top. And it's not so much Mission Impossible, if that makes sense. So yeah, but Mission Impossible 2, it's a decent movie, but overall the weakest in the franchise. So now the next 2 in this ranking, they could switch back and forth for me. These movies are kind of up on the same level, but I think that these next few movies are pretty good, I would say. So next we got Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, which is kind of considered the black sheep of the Mission Impossible films. You could say that, either this one or the next one that's in my ranking. It's one of those Mission Impossible films that don't really get brought up enough, and I understand why. It is one of the not so memorable films in the franchise, but with saying that, I still think that the movie is pretty good for what it is. And I think visually, it's a very good looking movie. Like, as far as the way that the movie looks, I think it's a good looking movie. Visually, I think it looks really solid and one of the better looking films in the franchise, I would say. So, especially, if you have it on Blu-ray. I mean, of course, if you're comparing Blu-ray to DVD, everything looks better on Blu-ray, so there is that. But yeah, this film, I liked it. Some cool action scenes, but I just think it pales in comparison to a lot of the other films in the franchise. But we're getting somewhere here. Obviously, it's better than the second film, so there is that. But overall, Rogue Nation, it's solid. It's solid for what it is, but not one of the best films in the franchise. So next, we got Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, which again, this film and Rogue Nation kind of do go back and forth for me. But I decided to go with this film here a little bit higher than Rogue Nation because I just find a little bit more out of this movie, you could say. There's a lot of cool action scenes in the movie. I do like the stuff at the beginning where Ethan Hunt is breaking out of prison. I really like that sequence, especially when it leads into the main theme. I thought that really worked for the movie. And of course you have the tower scene as well, which is basically the iconic moment of the movie. And I feel like all the Mission Impossible movies, like, they have that moment in every one of their movies where it's like that iconic moment, like that moment, that really big moment in the movie that you remember the most. And I think that's one of the things that do help differentiate the different Mission Impossible films and help, you know, tell them apart from one another because, you know, because which movies had which really big scene to it. Like, for example, the tower scene in this movie, which, you know, is on the front cover art here, is obviously the standout in this movie, similar to like how in Dead Reckoning Part 1, the train scene at the end was the big moment in that movie, and you know, similar to, you could say, in Mission Impossible Fallout, where the jumping out of the plane scene is one of the big moments in that movie, and along with the finale of the movie as well. So again, you get my point here. All the Mission Impossible movies like have that really big moment to it. And that's one of the things that I do appreciate about the franchise. So there is that. But I do like Ghost Protocol a lot. Again, the tower scene, it's excellent, and along with the sandstorm stuff that's in the movie as well, I thought that really worked with what they had going there. And yeah, a lot of cool action and stuff. Overall, I really like Ghost Protocol, and overall, you could say it's kind of underrated. Again, one of the less talked about films in the franchise, and I know that some people don't like this movie. There's some people that even say that it's the worst, even below Mission Impossible 2, which I don't agree with at all. I actually really like this movie. Not the best, but really good, I'd say. So next, we got the latest entry in the Mission Impossible franchise, Dead Reckoning Part 1, which, again, obviously not out on Blu-ray yet, but I really liked this movie when I saw it at the theater. I basically enjoyed every second of it, the action scenes. I liked pretty much everything about it. I mean, of course you have, again, going back to the iconic moments, those really big moments in Mission Impossible films. You have the train scene that's towards the end of the movie. I really like that. That's a real standout. And of course you have Tom Cruise driving a dirt bike off a cliff, which that part has been in TV spots and trailers for this film and everything. So again, I mean, I know I've already done a review for this movie, so I won't go too in depth with this film, but all I gotta say is it's a great movie, and again, probably one of my favorite films of 2023. So I really like Dead Reckoning Part 1. So next, now that we're in the top 3, next we got Mission Impossible Fallout, which in my opinion is probably the best of the newer Mission Impossible films, or you could say the best of the post-trilogy stuff. Really like this movie a lot. I like the practical stuff in the movie, and of course the action really stands out. Of course, going back to those really big moments where they're jumping out of the plane in the beginning of the movie, everything from that to the bathroom fight scene that's in the first half of this movie, and you have the ending as well, the finale, and the final fight with the villain in this movie, who is actually played by, I can't think of his name, Cavill, the guy who plays Superman. You guys know who I'm talking about. He actually plays the villain in this movie, which is pretty interesting. And you, of course, have Tom Cruise running, which, you know, I want to say it was Paramount that actually uploaded a compilation of Tom Cruise running in Mission Impossible movies because, you know, he's done it so much and it's just iconic at this point. And in this movie, he's jumping from rooftop to rooftop, which is just really epic. So, yeah, Tom Cruise, I believe he does all his stunts as well. So that is pretty cool. So, if not all of them, at least most of them. So that is pretty cool. So, I really liked Mission Impossible Fallout when I first watched it. Always really enjoyed this one. So at number 2, well, number 2 and number 1, they honestly do go back and forth for me. So I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit here, okay? Because I'm just going to tie number 2 and number 1 together. So the two movies that are tied together are Mission Impossible 3 and the first film. It was really hard for me to decide which of these two films I like more. I might go with the first one just a little bit, like if you had to make me choose, you know, if my life depended on it, if you had to make me choose, I might choose the first one, but it wouldn't be much though. But yeah, it's just overall really tough to decide between both these films. Mission Impossible 3 is great because this was the film that basically saved the Mission Impossible franchise, especially coming off of Mission Impossible 2, which again, I myself and a lot of other fans have regarded it as the weakest in the franchise. So the Mission Impossible franchise definitely had a lot of making up to do. It really had to redeem itself. And you know what? This film, it redeemed the franchise. Great action scenes and everything. I mean, you could say that some of the action is over the top, you know, especially with the bridge scene in the movie, but I actually like that part of the movie, you know, lots of cool action in that part of the movie. So yeah, lots of cool moments in the movie. Overall, I just really enjoyed Mission Impossible 3. Definitely one of the best in the franchise. But of course, the first one, it's a classic. I mean, how could you not love the first Mission Impossible movie? Interestingly enough, this movie also has a finale with the train scene at the end. You know, of course, they would do this again with Dead Reckoning Part 1. So that's pretty interesting. So, yeah, overall, I really enjoyed Mission Impossible Part 1, the first film. And again, it's just really tough to decide between this one and the third film. Both really great movies, and of course, worth checking out for sure. I mean, of course, if you don't check out any of the Mission Impossible films, definitely check out the first one. So, these two, they're tied for my favorites, so there you have it. So that is my ranking for the Mission Impossible movies. Let me know what you think. Are you a fan of the Mission Impossible franchise? How would you rank these movies? Feel free to let me know. So on that note, thanks for watching. Have a good one.